Hi there, so I'm Catriona Crombie and I'm from LifeArc. Now, I don't know whether many of you have heard of LifeArc, but we are a medical research charity that specialises in translation. And by translation, we mean getting science out of the academic lab and on its journey towards delivering impact for patients in the form of a product, a therapeutic or a diagnostic or something like that that can make a difference to any patient's life. I am head of rare disease research, so the schemes that I am involved in are all relevant to rare diseases and those in this room. So recently, the NIHR and the MRC published a report on the rare disease research landscape, and I see that Richard is on the agenda later on, so I won't spend very much time talking about this because I don't want to steal his thunder. But the point is that they have shown that there's actually a huge amount of rare disease research going on. There is, over a 5-year period, about £1.1 billion worth of money going into rare disease research. That's phenomenal, and I think gives us all great hope. But if there's all this money going into rare disease research, why haven't we got drugs for all of these rare conditions? Why hasn't everyone in this room got a treatment? And that is the challenge that I am trying to deal with within LifeArc, is to try and work out how we get that knowledge and that expertise that exists in the academic space and how we transform that into benefit for patients. Now, there are a lot of challenges in translating rare disease research, and some of them are not unique to rare disease research. I think something that Nick was saying earlier, a lot of things that affect common diseases are also relevant to rare diseases, but rare diseases have even greater challenges than other conditions. Often rare disease research is fragmented. Quite often we find that you will find that there's a professor who's doing research in a common condition and they've got a kind of side project of a rare disease project. There's a lot of kind of tinkering at the edges. They go for the big money in the big conditions, but they're really curious and interested in a rare condition, but it's done at the side of their kind of main research focus. And that leads to it being fragmented and not joined up and coherent in any great way. It's really challenging to build a career purely in rare diseases for academics and clinicians, just by virtue of the fact that there's more money in the common conditions. They tend to be more competitive for funding. People can see career pathways in those common conditions. It is very hard, I think, for academics and clinicians to get careers purely in rare disease research. And all of that combines to mean that there's a lack of resources. There isn't the same databases available for rare diseases. There's not the same coordination of research and resources available. And academics also lack good advice on regulation specific to rare diseases. And quite often we hear from clinicians who are saying, "Oh, but I can't do a clinical trial in a rare disease population because there's not enough patients." But there are ways to do that if you can provide the right sort of regulatory advice and the right sort of powering. It's not true that you need to do a large phase 3 study necessarily. But we could do with better trial designs for rare diseases that could capitalise on the number of the scarcity of patients, if you like. There's lack of understanding of preclinical regulatory requirements. There's a lack of resource for supporting sort of project management support that goes into these sort of things, particularly if you're short of money. One of the first things that academics will cut out of their grant is their project management support. It's also harder for them to gain access to specialist facilities, such as those that do medicinal chemistry. And because the route to adoption is not well understood, people are often scared and don't want to enter into that. So there's quite a lot of challenges in rare disease research, but I don't think we should let that overwhelm us and put us off. We should really be trying to say, right, well, what do we do about each of those? And there's different groups around this room that are trying to deal with those, like Lucy there was talking about medics for rare diseases. if we can educate doctors better, then that will help with a lot of these things. So one of the first things that we've done is to launch a call for Translational Rare Disease Centres Network. So this is a significant investment of 40 million into rare disease centres. So these will be centres that will coordinate research to try and bring a real focus on addressing some of these challenges that I've just spoken about. The call has now closed, and we're looking at reviewing the full applications in a couple of weeks' time. So hopefully in the new year we'll be able to tell you exactly what it is we're funding. But the aim of this scheme is to really try and bring researchers together to coordinate research and focus attention on trying to address some of these real translational challenges, to give the research effort some scale and provide access to the specialist facilities that the researchers need in order to translate their research. The centres will be physical and virtual, so they will have specific sites where the research will happen, but they will all be collaborative, so they will all bring together multiple universities. They are challenge specific, so they're each trying to address a specific translational challenge in rare diseases. They build on an existing landscape, so last year MRC and NIHR funded a number of nodes, so we hope that our centres will work with those that are already funded through that scheme and others, so that we can really maximise the impact for our funding, that it can really leverage on the funding of others and bring some coordination to that effort. We're also looking at drug repurposing for rare diseases to try and address some of the big challenges. Now, we're starting that in a condition called epidermolysis bullosa. The logic of that is scientific. So we know that a lot of the problems in this devastating skin condition are caused by fibrosis and inflammation. And we also know there are a lot of drugs out there that target inflammation and fibrosis. And so we're really looking at seeing what of those drugs we can repurpose in this condition, and can we make a difference and deliver some impact for this patient population. The logic being that if we can do it in this condition, then perhaps we can take a similar approach to other conditions and find more repurposed drugs that we can use for other rare conditions. And looking forward, there are still a lot of big challenges in the rare disease space. One of the things that has been bothering me quite a lot recently is the number of drugs that we're seeing dropped. So this figure here shows you the number of advanced therapies that have been approved for rare conditions by the EMA. And of the 23, there are already 7 have been dropped post-market authorization. The only thing worse than having no drug for your condition is having a drug that you know works and you know is safe and you can't access it. That's, in so many ways, utterly outrageous. And we've also been approached by a number of organisations and charities, some of whom are in this room today, who have funded research. The university has then spun it out into a company or licensed it on into a company. And, the charity thinks that's fantastic, we've done a really great job here, and then it's stalled. And it's got stuck. And that's, again, unacceptable. We need to find a way through for those drugs. They can't just sit as portfolio padding in a biotech company. So one of the things I want to do looking forward is to really think about what business models we can make work and how can we create something that is sustainable for rare diseases and really allow consistent supply of drugs in a sustainable way for rare disease patients. I think Rick talked a bit about the diagnostic odyssey there, and it is something that remains a massive challenge, as is the data space. And I think, I was mentioning earlier that the rare disease landscape is very fragmented, and if there is a way we can hope to bring all of the data together in a coordinated way, we can perhaps learn things from multiple conditions in the way that Heinz was just talking about. we can learn things from different rare disease conditions, but we need to have data in a way that's interoperable and we can examine it in similar ways. It's great that we've got lots of rare conditions databases for each individual condition, but we want to be able to get some synergies from all of that. So just as the time's up sign is coming up, I am going to flick onto my last slide and say thank you very much. And just really say, you know, if you want to come and talk to us about rare disease research at all, we've got a stand out there, so come talk to us whenever you're ready.